Hi all. Thank you for being here. A very warm welcome to our panel. My name is Harish Nair, so you can call me Harry. I think he got the wrong name there. Nadesh, sorry about that. Before we start the panel, I just want to ask the panelists one fun fact about yourself that we wouldn't get to know from your LinkedIn profile, just to get to know you better. We can start with the lady.
I don't know if it's fun. It's fun for me at least. But I've always joined a category that I'm very fond of. So I like shopping, so I joined Shoppers Stop. I like eating burgers, so I joined Burger King. And that's really pretty much how I've been in my entire career.
You get free burgers?
No, I pay for my burgers.
Ratin?
Hello. So I think the one thing which is really fun for me is I just love football.
You play?
Yeah, I do play too.
Nadish?
So I think probably, I don't know if it's a fun fact or not, it's an interesting fact, is that my name is Nadish Ramachandran. So that kind of tells you that I am a Tambram. But what it doesn't tell you is also I'm half Punjabi and I've lived all my life in Delhi. And my family believes in national integration, so I married a Bengali. And my sister married Parsi, so we basically covered all of India, and now we should probably move to Madhya Pradesh and start living in Bhopal, and that'll probably cover it.
Carl?
So I'm a pretty boring guy. No fun facts. No, I think what you'll not get online is that I collect a lot of comic book statues. So that's fun for me. I don't know if it's fun for my wife because it's an expensive hobby. But yeah, that's a fun fact.
Okay, thank you. So the way we are going to look at this panel, first we will see how marketing is changing in the digital age. What are some innovations in product, in price, in promotion that we can look at. Second, we'll try and bust some myths about marketing in the digital age. There are a whole lot of learnings that we have carried with us over the past few years, which going into this digital age may not be relevant anymore. So can we bunk some of them, take new learnings on board? Third, we'll leave you with some key takeaways, what you can take from the session, some must-dos, some future trends that will help you in your job going forward. So to start off with, I remember a conversation we had last year with Shekhar Kapoor, the renowned filmmaker, and he made a very interesting point. He said, marketing in the digital age is like Shiva Tandava. Just think about it. Earlier, in marketing, we used to do a slow dance with our consumers. We would lead and the consumers would follow. But today, it is much more vigorous. The consumers are flipping between screens, going frantically across touch points, and we are trying to keep pace with them. Successful companies will be those which will kind of be able to adapt to this unrelenting pace of digital innovation. And on that note, I'll start my first question to Ratin. Ratin, how do you look at this piece? Is it about digital being one more channel in your media mix? Or fundamentally is marketing changing? Is digital kind of affecting all your piece, your product, your price, your promotion? Are all these getting affected?
Okay. So let me begin with a very high-level comment, and then I'll get down to our industry. So I think the consumer is digital, and if you take India, I think approximately 20 to 30 million consumers are actually transacting online. And the way I look at it, that's the opportunity for all of us, whatever the category or whatever the brand, to grab a share of that 20-25 million base, because these guys have got comfortable with transacting online. have got comfortable with payments online, and are on the lookout for new things. A large portion of them are deal seekers, but not everybody is a deal seeker. Okay, so that's the high level thing. If I come down to our own category, that's one. The second thing I'd like to say is, one of the big mega trends to my mind is that, there is a combination of VC capital backed by technology and backed by a very different vision, which is actually, looking at current existing industries and business models and figuring out, how they can kind of disaggregate them. It happened to, let's say, we all used to go to a bookstore to read books. Nowadays you can't really find any bookstore. Initially we used to all go to a shop to look at a mobile. We're now all buying mobiles online. And it's happening to a bunch of categories. If I talk about Meru, I think, there is competition here, which is digital first. And I think the way we've approached it is very simple, that A, we need to have the technology, which in this case is the app, which is as good as anybody else's. And B, we have to migrate our own consumer base onto the app, and C, target this 20-25 million digital consumer to try out Meru, because they were not the original consumers of Meru. As a result of a bunch of things we have done, part successful, part not so successful, our app contribution has gone from some 12% 12 months back to some 65% today, which is a huge shift, right? And it's had its share of pains and all of that stuff, but that is one thing which we have managed to move, which is, become a digital business. And I think it's important to not just look at marketing and social media likes, and impressions and CTRs and so on, but look at the opportunity. And the opportunity is this 20-25 million base. And most of us, our brands are like a couple of million, 3 million, 5 million. We don't really have these mega brands, right? And then you can look at digital to not just get trials, and that would work, let's say, across categories, to engage with consumers, to get lapsed consumers back. There's a whole bunch of things which we can do from a data point of view to do that. So.
Great. So, Nadesh, I'll just want to bring you in at this point. When you're talking about this digital age, we are talking about insights, data. How do you, as Google, you have a worldview. How do you see other markets using this piece to their advantage? How do you see Indian marketers using data to our advantage? Are there any gaps? Is there something we could do better in this piece?
I think you can always do things better. But if you look at how brands and marketeers are using the data at their disposal, right? There are 2-3 different ways they're doing it. If I look at other markets as well as some very advanced brands in India, the way they're doing it is, at the end of the day, marketing is driven by consumer insight, right? If data can help you find that most interesting consumer insight, which will help you develop communication, which will help you target better, which will help you drive the right message to the right audience in the right way, why would you not do it, right? And I think Google is today, the reality is its intent. Consumers are coming and putting their intent or whatever they're thinking of in that search bar. That data, in a lot of cases, is available to marketeers to use and actually mine and get the best out of it. I think one great example in India has been Unilever, doing some very interesting things after finding the insight. So we worked very closely with them. I'll give you a sense of what they've done, right? So what they did is they realized that increasingly in India, consumers are going to YouTube and they're trying to find videos on beauty, right? Centered around how to. So how do I apply makeup in a certain way? How do I do my hair in a certain way? How do I maintain my skin tone, et cetera, right? Now, once they've identified that this is a need that consumers are trying to drive, how do I as a brand capitalize on this, right? So what they've done is they actually partnered with a bunch of content creators across the ecosystem who were already creating this sort of beauty content. and consumers were already consuming that content. They partnered with them, got their brands integrated into it, and created this destination called Be Beautiful, which today is India's largest beauty destination. Right? That's one example of an Indian brand who's mined data and actually found insights and run with it. I think globally there are a host of examples of what brands are doing with this. So obviously the opportunity is massive. What tends to happen in a lot of cases when you have too much data is that you tend to keep asking for data without realizing what to do with it. Right? And I think that's the trap that a lot of Indian marketers I see falling into. That they'll keep asking for data, but they don't know what to do with that data. And I think that's why it becomes very, very important to start with what is the end goal. And once I've defined the end goal, what are just the 3 or 4 questions that I need to answer to reach that end goal? What tends to happen is we don't have a very clear end goal, and therefore we keep asking lots of questions, and then we have, at the end of the day, these 50-slide decks with data, and then we don't know which direction to go in.
So I'll come to the creative on this panel, Carlton. Earlier we used to have madmen, now we have maxmen. Is all this data really adding to your creativity and innovation, or is it really holding you back? Because now, I don't know, I mean, like Nadish was saying, there's so much data. Are people freezing because there is so much data, or is all this data adding to it?
So I think data gives direction, and it gives direction for the marketing team. It also gives direction for the retailer itself. So I honestly believe it could restrict you as far as a few creative propositions are concerned, but I think that's a challenge, right? So if you have a challenge and can come up with a better creative proposition around that challenge, I think it's a lot more fruitful for both parties, whether it's the agency as well as the retailer itself. I've seen a lot of physical retail stores also do a lot of innovations where they can actually map out various places within a store which hits, or rather which the consumer actually moves towards, and use that data to promote certain products because people are moving towards a specific direction within a store. So that's improving your sale, or rather pushing products which you want to push within a specific area, so that you can actually drive greater sales and probably even promote certain products within your store. So I think when it comes to data, whilst it might restrict you to a certain extent creatively, I honestly believe if you can understand and make sense of that data, it can promote creativity in a certain sense also.
Carlton, what would be, according to you, some brilliant campaign that has happened recently? I mean, how would you look at innovation in the first place? Is there a unit for innovation apart from all the awards that you win? Mm-hmm. I stumbled on a fact this week which said that there's a unit for beauty, which is Helen. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that before. So is there a unit for innovation? Is it awards won? Is it people reached? What is the unit?
I think the metric for innovation is most people interacting with that particular piece of innovation and talking about it. I could have a really complex piece of innovation and people will just not engage with it because it's too complex. But I think the best innovations are the simplest ones, which actually come out over there. And we've seen it in a number of innovations which we've done for Mahindra in the augmented reality experiences which we've given across for them. But there have been some really interesting ones which have been done globally. I think Adidas did a really interesting interactive hoarding of sorts where you could actually make a digital mannequin of sorts. So it's a live mannequin which is shot, and put specific clothes on him to see how that mannequin looks, and then make a purchase online there itself. So it's kind of like, so when you end up going and purchasing a product, right? I think it's called curbside commerce, where retailers, especially stores, have a problem because they have a limited time frame, right? They start at a specific time and they end at a specific time, but the consumer might not necessarily be, in tune with that specific time. He might actually come when the store is closed. So how do you actually still capture that individual? So you give him opportunities of purchasing the product just by standing on the curb and interacting with digital hoardings or digital mannequins which are out there and making that purchase. So you have not lost a consumer, you have actually gained a consumer, or rather kept the consumer with you. In this age of e-commerce, retailers are all running helter-skelter, especially stores are running helter-skelter because they are losing out to e-commerce. E-commerce gives you convenience, it saves time. If you innovate and enable that kind of experience on a retail storefront, I think, people will not find the need to actually get onto e-commerce also. Whilst there will be a lot of people who will be on e-commerce, you will not end up actually losing your retail customer
would you
also.
agree with his worldview of creativity? I mean, is this the creative agency trying to win a cons?
I think creativity is really, at least me on the client side, it's more about, what problems I can eventually solve. And sometimes it could be that there's a problem that the consumer is facing, but sometimes it could be a problem that me in my business am facing, and where I can still create a customer need, right? And how I can service that need. And I think to my mind, one of the very good examples that comes of the former, in fact, is Tesco, if I'm not mistaken, in Japan, had done these screens where you could order on your station platforms, because very hard pressed for time, you order on a digital platform, you pick it up on your way home. And they solved a very, very, in-your-face consumer need, in Japan, where people were so time pressed. And how Tesco actually gained leadership in that market was through one of an innovation like that, where technology has come to your rescue
And
as a
it's
marketer,
directly
and it's
relatable
directly
to
linked
sales and-
to sales, yeah. And that's what a brand wants, but it bridges a consumer need very, very brilliantly. I think one of the things that I faced, in fact, recently when we were launching, and the looming question from my management was that, the success for a brand in India is when there's a queue. And so, there's a lot of pressure, and I don't know how many marketers are here saying that, how the hell is this queue going to form outside your restaurant for burgers, and why are people going to do it? And
It's easy, you just give free burgers.
Thank you. Without doing that. And there were lots of ideas, right? I mean, a lot of ideas that agencies, did present to us with. And I think sometimes their thought process grows into something else. And what we have done is that one of the answers lied in saying that, this whole thing saying that how do you insure your response? How do you buy that insurance for response for your launch? And we said, okay, fine, let's pre-sell, right? So what we did is we pre-booked the Whoppers on eBay. So it was the first time, and of course, e-tail is a very big wave, so we don't sell online. So we actually launched the Whopper on eBay, not anything else, but we launched it on eBay as a pre-order. And there was a lot of, we can't cook that many burgers in a day, honestly. That's the equipment, that's the space, etc. So we put 1,200 Whoppers as inventory on eBay, and we thought it'll take us 3 days to sell. Okay, fine, 1,200 people will come. That'll give us something. Another 1,200, maybe 2,000 people come, and we'll have a queue. And we said, it's fine. We knew how to manage our inventory. We need that much inventory. We have a parking van. Our storage is taken care of, etc. Now, what happened is that our burgers got sold. The 1,200 got sold in 30 hours instead of 3 days, right? So it just went crazy, and it was gone. And the news channels picked it up because it was the first time in the world that burgers were sold online in this fashion. So it got covered right up to New York Times, Times of India here. So it went crazy. And we had 6,000 people who turned up on the opening day. So our queues were serpentine. They ran out of the mall, etc. But I'll agree with him on that. It's a simple idea, right? I mean, we could not tell why newspapers wanted to cover it and what it was. But
is this a one-off, or is there a process? I mean, so we hear that marketing is continuous beta and the function itself
you
is
have to
changing.
keep finding, the function. I agree with you. In fact,
So
what
how
is
do
done...
you reinvent the marketing function?
So I don't know whether we are reinventing the marketing function, but we've been reinvented in a manner of speaking, right? Because consumers are now giving you so much information, right, that marketing has now become the champion for the customer in the organization, right? And that's from where you need creativity, you need everything else, but you need this whole matrix which is working across departments in the organization, because you have to respond to consumers. You don't always have your answers. You're getting information about many things. You can improve your supply chain, you can improve your pricing, you can improve, your service standards, your training, and so many things, simply because the consumer is giving you so much more information. In fact, just understanding the consumer through all these mechanisms makes you more responsible in the organization for driving strategy, which is more customer centric today. And that's how the marketing role has gotten,